know I got the receipts, girl. You know I got the receipts.
Yeah. Becoming more spacious, less embracing. Circumference getting smaller according to my calculations. Less complications equivalent to less relations, and that make less obligations and less problems that I'm facing. I'm better off lonesome, that makes me wholesome. The only time all around is if you just wanna host them. Yeah, these nuts, how about you go ahead and gross them? Cause it's better to make some than to have to owe some. Had to expose them, I'm afraid who I'm becoming lately. Even if the world hate me, at least my mom appreciate me. She the only reason I put this grinding on the daily. That's why I love her, and fuck the world like I'm trying to have a baby. But I don't give a fuck though, Butter's turning cutthroat. He pushing up his luck though, he get blocked, Matumbo. I've been humble for a minute, time to rumble. A new nigga in town, so now you cats in trouble. Yeah, new me, who this? Yeah, new me, who this? Yeah, new me, who this? But a savage, you know he ruthless. I'm not coming aggressive, just becoming protective. Realized what's mine and just became mighty possessive. My actions been excessive, my life is going progressive. First starting to become selective as I've grown steadily pensive. If the truth don't hurt you, don't know what will. Tough pill to swallow, but you know you gotta grow up still. You just gotta decipher in your life between what's real and sacrifice is key, you gotta let that blood spill. These niggas gotta fear being denied by majority. Rather reject themselves morally than be looked down poorly. But when you rather just be yourself accordingly than boringly put on the persona that you just scorn to be. Pay attention, I wanna be me and go down historically and not conceitedly. I think there should be a lot more of me. I just think you should be you and who you were born to be. But now I'm done with this stupid ass dumb ordered speech.
Today, the word Motown is so ingrained in our culture, it's easy to forget its humble beginnings. When you hear the name, immediately artists like Marvin Gaye, Diana Ross, Stevie Wonder, Aretha Franklin, The Temptations, Smokey Robinson, and most memorable, the Jackson 5 come to mind. Located in Detroit, better known as the Motor City, in the 60s, Motown churned out music acts just like Ford Motors churned out automobiles. Motown Records has only been around since the 1960s, but its influence is mighty, and much of that is thanks to Berry Gordy, Motown's founder. But just as Motown enjoyed success breaking barriers during a time when racism and social injustice against Black Americans was the norm, Motown also had its secrets. Behind the glitz and the glamour, the fame and the fortune, and all of those shiny new Cadillacs, there were rumors, there were accusations, and yes, there were secrets. Let's take a trip down memory lane and talk about a record label that shaped an entire generation. The Gordy family began with a white man named James Thomas Gordy and his slave named Esther Johnson. They had a son named Berry Gordy who married a woman named Lucy Hellam. They had a son whom they too named Berry Gordy Sr., also later known as Pops. Now Pops met Bertha Fuller and the couple were wed. The Gordy family moved to Detroit after hearing about numerous opportunities to work at the Ford Motor Company. Pops moved his family from Milledgeville, Georgia to Detroit, Michigan as part of the Great Migration of 1922. Now during this period, many blacks fled from the South and headed up north to Detroit to escape racism and the lynchings that were happening at the hands of the KKK. Pops and Bertha had 8 children together, which were Fuller, Esther, Anna, Lucy, George, Gwen, Berry, and Robert. Now, Berry, who was born on November 28th of 1929, is also the second cousin of the 39th president, Jimmy Carter, as the two shared the same great-grandfather. Now, in Detroit, Pops Gordy operated his own grocery shop, plaster, carpentry, and printing business. And with the help of the 2 eldest boys, Fuller and George, the Gordy businesses thrived. But Berry and Robert, being the younger siblings, were not inclined to follow in their father and brother's footsteps, and instead they gravitated towards dancing and music. Now, although Berry enjoyed music, he didn't know during this time that it was his calling. So oddly enough, he was actually interested in boxing, so much so that he dropped out of Northeastern High School in the 11th grade to pursue his career in boxing in hopes of making a lot of money quickly. Berry's boxing career lasted for only about 1 year, and in 1951, he was drafted to serve in the Korean War. While finishing up his military service in 1953, Berry received his GED. Now, when he returned from Korea, Berry married Thelma Louise Coleman. Around this time is when Berry decided to start pursuing a career in music, creating a jazz music store called 3D Record Mart, which also sold 3D glasses. The purpose and mission of the store was to teach about the beauty of jazz music. The store was ultimately not a success, but it taught Berry a huge lesson, and that was never to throw all of your eggs into one basket. Now, Berry felt that music was the way to life, but he needed to approach the industry differently. And while thinking of a plan, he began working for the Ford Mercury plant. Now, the Gordy family had many connections, and one of those connections was to a man by the name of Al Green. Now, this was not the same Al Green that is a singer. Now, this Al Green was the owner of a nightclub and also his own publishing company. He was also the manager of local singer Jackie Wilson. So Berry took this opportunity to quit working at the automobile plant, and along with his sister Gwen and her then boyfriend Billy Davis, they hooked up and wrote songs like Reet Petite,
Well, look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that, ooh,
To Be Loved,
to be loved, oh,
As Long as I Live,
for where I go,
We Have Love,
we have love,
Lonely Teardrops,
lonely teardrops, my pillow,
That's Why I Love You So,
that is why I love you so, that is why,
and I'll Be Satisfied.
Just a smile, hold my hand, baby, just once.
Berry worked for Brunswick Records for about a year, and during this time, he began investing his money earned from working there into producing. Berry, his sister Gwen, and her boyfriend Billy began working with Chicago-based record company Chess Records at that time. And together, the trio worked on Etta James's track, All I Can Do Is Cry.
I heard church bell.
In 1957, Berry Gordy met 17-year-old William Robinson, later known as Smokey. Smokey and his group, whom at that time were known as the Matadors, auditioned for Brunswick Records. They auditioned in front of Alonzo Tucker, Matt Turnipool, and Berry Gordy. Now, both Alonzo and Matt were unimpressed, saying that their group was too much like the Platters, and there couldn't be 2 groups in America with a woman. Now, Berry thought differently and followed the group out after the audition, telling them that he really liked them, especially Smokey's vocals. Smokey then handed his notebook, which included over 100 songs, over to Berry, and Berry was very impressed by Smokey's songwriting abilities, and this marked the start of the pair's partnership and Berry's successful portfolio of iconic musicians. Now, due to royalty disagreements with label owner Matt Turnipool, Berry then left Brunswick Records. Now, Berry and Smokey then teamed up and wrote the song got a job for Smokey's group, who were now going by The Miracles. Berry worked out a contract with his sister Detroit-based record company label called Anna Records to distribute the track. Now, Berry was only paid $3.19, which was around $30 in today's money for his contributions made to the song. Now, back then, blacks were only paid the amount that the record owners decided to pay them, and you were lucky if you even got any payment at all. So Smokey encouraged Berry to start his own label in order to avoid any future disgraces such as this one. And this is when the infamous $800 family loan occurred between Berry and his family. Now, Berry convinced his family to loan him $800 to start his own label, although he really wanted $1,000. Now, along with the money that Berry had earned while at Brunswick Records and that $800, Berry launched Tamla Records on January 12th of 1959. Now, Berry began writing for many artists, starting with a local artist he met at a carnival named Marvin Johnson. Come to Me was one of his hits.
Well, oh baby, won't you come to me?
You Got What It Takes.
You don't drive a big fine car. You don't look
And I Love the Way You Love
like holding my hand when I'm low.
were others. Berry went on to write and produce for many more performers. Now, Berry's third release was Bad Girl by The Miracles. Now, Bad Girl was the first release on the Motown record label. Bad Girl was a solid hit in 1959 after Chess Records picked it up. Now, Barrett Strong's Money, That's What I Want initially appeared on Berry's Tamla Records and then charted on his sister's label, Anna Records, in February of 1960. It was The Miracles who gave the label its first million-selling hit single with the 1960 Grammy Hall of Fame smash, Shop Around, and its follow-up hits, You've Really Got a Hold on Me, Mickey's Monkey, What's So Good About Goodbye, and I'll Try Something New. This made The Miracle the label's first stars. Now, the Tamla and Motown labels were then merged into a new company, Motown Record Corporation, incorporated on April 14th of 1960. In 1960, Berry signed an unknown singer, Mary Wells, who became the label's second star, with Smokey Robinson writing her hit singles, You Beat Me to the Punch, Two Lovers, and My Guy. The Miracles' hit, Shop Around, peaked at number 1 on the national R&B charts in late 1960 and at number 2 on the Billboard magazine pop charts on January 16th of 1961, which established Motown as an independent company worthy of notice. Later in 1961, the Marvelettes' Please Mr. Postman made it to the top of both charts. Now, Berry's gift for identifying and bringing together musical talent, along with the careful management of his artist's public image, made Motown a major national and international success. Over the next decade, Berry signed such artists as the Supremes, Marvin Gaye, the Temptations, Jimmy Ruffin, the Contours, the Four Tops, Gladys Knight and the Pips, the Commodores, the Velvets, Martha and the Vandells, Stevie Wonder, and of course, the Jackson 5. Berry continued to promote African American artists, but carefully controlled their public image, how they dressed, their manners, and the choreography for across-the-board appeal. In 1972, Berry relocated to Los Angeles and began producing films. His first film was a biopic based on blues singer Billie Holiday, titled Lady Sings the Blues. The movie starred singer Diana Ross, and for her role in the film, Diana was nominated for an Academy Award. Richard Pryor and Billy D. Williams were cast in the movie as well. Now, initially, the studio rejected Billy D. Williams after several screen tests. However, Berry, known for his tenacity, objected, and the studio allowed Berry to have his way.
You want my arm to fall off?
This role established Billy Dee Williams as a major movie star. Berry soon after produced and directed his next movie, Mahogany. Now, Tony Richardson was the original director, but Berry fired Richardson and took over direction himself after a dispute over minor casting. Now, this movie also starred Billy Dee Williams and Diana Ross in the lead roles. In 1985, Berry produced the martial arts film The Last Dragon, which starred martial artist Tay-Mak and one of Prince's proteges, singer Vanity. Now, although Motown continued to produce major hits throughout the 1970s and 1980s by artists including the Jacksons, Rick James, the Commodores, Lionel Richie, and long-term signings Stevie Wonder and Smokey Robinson, the record company was no longer the major force it had been. Berry sold his interest in Motown Records to MCA and Boston Ventures on June 28th of 1988 for $61 million. He later sold most of his interest in Jobate Publishing to EMI Publishing. Now, Berry wrote or co-wrote 240 of the approximately 15,000 songs in Motown's Jobate music catalog. However, the true test of the label's worth would come a few years later when Polygram paid over $330 million for the Motown catalog. Diana Ross was given shares in this version of the label. Now, Berry was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1988, and then in 1994, he published his autobiography titled To Be Loved. He was inducted into the Junior Achievement U.S. Business Hall of Fame in 1998 and the Michigan Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame in 2009. On March 20th of 2009, Berry was in Hollywood to pay tribute to his first group and first million-selling act, The Miracles. When the members received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Berry said, "Without the Miracles, Motown would not be the Motown it is today." Now, at the age of 79, Berry spoke at the memorial service for Michael Jackson in Los Angeles on July 7th of 2009. He suggested that the King of Pop was perhaps not the best description for Michael in light of his achievements, referring to him instead as the greatest entertainer that ever lived.
He was driven by his hunger to learn, to constantly top himself, to be the best. He was the consummate student. He studied the greats and became greater. He raised the bar and then broke the bar. His talent and creativity thrust him and entertainment into another stratosphere. The Motown family mourns the death of our friend and brother, Michael Jackson, who was like a son to me. Our deep condolences go out to all his family, his parents, Joe and Catherine, his beautiful children, his sisters and brothers, and his nieces and nephews. Michael Jackson was 10 years old when he and his brothers, Jackie, Jermaine, Tito, and Marlon, auditioned for me at Motown in Detroit that July day in 1968 and blew us all away. The Jackson Five were just amazing, and little Michael's performance was way beyond his years. This little kid had an incredible knowingness about him. He sang with such feeling and inspiration. Michael had a quality that I couldn't completely understand, but we all knew he was special. Aside from singing and dancing like James Brown and Jackie Wilson, he sung a Smokey Robinson song called Who's Loving You? He sang it with the sadness and passion of a man who had been living the blues and heartbreak his whole life. And as great as Smokey sang it, I thought Michael was better. You know. I went to Smokey and I said, hey man, I think he got you on that one. Smokey said, me too. That was Motown. Motown was built on love and competition, and sometimes the competition got in the way of the love, but the love always won out. We competed on everything. In California, we had a baseball game every week, the Jacksons versus the Gordys. Unfortunately for us, Tito and Jackie were big home run hitters. They would knock the ball out of the park. But then, so was my son, Berry. And I'm not going to tell you who won most of the games, but I will tell you that the Gordys cried a lot. And even though little Michael was the catcher for the Jacksons and missed a lot of balls, we still cried a lot. But we swam and we joked and we played games. And when Michael performed his songs, you could feel the happiness in his soul, because that's what he loved to do. Michael inspired me so much that for days I walked around humming a bright little happy tune with him in mind. Oh baby, da da dee da da, da 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 da. Then I put a group together and we came up with 4 hit records for them. I Want You Back, ABC, The Love You Save, and I'll Be There. The Jackson 5 was the only group in history to have their first 4 records go to #1. In 1983, the brothers reunited and returned to do Motown 25th anniversary show. After a high-powered, dazzling medley of their songs, Michael took the stage alone and made pop history. From the first beat of Billie Jean and the toss of that hat, I was mesmerized. But when he did his iconic moonwalk, I was shocked. It was magic. Michael Jackson went into orbit and never came down. Though it ended way too soon, Michael's life was beautiful. Sure, there were some sad times and maybe some questionable decisions on his part, but Michael Jackson accomplished everything he dreamed of. At 10 years old, he had passion. He had passion to be the greatest entertainer in the world, and he was willing to work as hard to do whatever it took to become what he indeed became, the undisputed king of pop, the world over. What kid wouldn't give his right arm to fulfill his wildest childhood dreams? Michael loved it all, every moment on stage, every moment in rehearsal. Michael loved creating what had never been done before. He loved everything and everybody, especially his fans. I must say, though, that he did have two personalities. Off stage, he was shy, soft-spoken, and childlike. But when he took the stage in front of his screaming fans, he turned into another person. A master, a take-no-prisoners showman. It was like kill or be killed. I mean, Michael was awesome, totally in charge. In fact, the more I think and talk about Michael Jackson, I feel the king of pop is not big enough for him. I think he is simply the greatest entertainer that ever lived.
On May 15th of 2011, it was announced that Berry was developing a Broadway musical about Motown. The show was an account of events of the 1960s and how they shaped the creation of the label. Berry's hopes were that the musical would improve the reputation of Motown Records and clear up any misconceptions regarding the label's demise.
Which he wrote and produced, officially opens this Sunday. Berry Gordy, good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
I have heard you say that at 83, this is probably your last project. Number one, I don't believe you about that. But you've also said that you weren't happy with the way your story's been told in the past, and you wanted to tell your story your way. What do you want us to know about you and about Motown back in the day?
Well, just what it was, you know. I mean, not only what we did, but how we did it and why we did it and all that, you know. And we were so fortunate to come along in a time when so much was happening, you know, in the 60s, and we were just blessed. And so we're telling the story the way it was.
You said an assembly line. What does that mean? You ran Motown like an assembly line.
Well, I worked at a factory, a Ford Motor Company, and I worked on the assembly line, and I would watch as these bare metal frames would come in one door, a bare metal frame, and out another door, a brand new car.
Right.
And I thought, well, how brilliant is that, you know? And they had their quality control, and so I then thought, because I was a music lover and a writer, that if I started a company, I would use that idea. So a kid can come in one door, an unknown, and out another door, a star. And through those processes, they would do all these different things, teach them how to sing, dance, and so forth.
You ought to tell your own story. But was there something about the Berry Gordy story that was wrong, that became part of the myth?
Oh, of course. I mean, that.
What was it that bothered you?
Well, no, it wasn't. Well, you know, it bothered me when people were not there and they wrote about things they had no idea about. Yeah. And because we moved so fast, no one could feel that a black kid from Detroit could do a Motown. That's the first thing. And so you'd have to be in a mafia, gangster, drug dealer, or whatever, you know, the people expected. So in my case, it was just that these people that came in were talented. It's all about people. Right. You know, Smokey was talented, Stevie was talented, Martha Vandellis was talented.
Diana was talented.
Diana was more than talented.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
No, this is interesting because Diana plays a big role in the musical and a big role in your life. So much so, I was very surprised, Berry, that you wrote this, that you included on the play that the first time you were with Diana, that things did not go according to plan. You even said that you could not perform. I don't know any man who would share that. Why did you decide you wanted to put that in?
About normal people and myself. Yes. And I think that when you think of somebody as a goddess or somebody as the greatest thing and you're getting ready to have sex with them, you know, something can happen always in your mind.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
So, you know, and that's what happened. You know, at the last minute I said, what if? and and then it was embarrassing from then on out.
But it's not embarrassing now. You and Diana have had a child together. Why did you two ultimately break up? I've always been curious about that.
Well, you have to come see the play.
Oh, really?
It's a play.
Okay.
No, it's you know, it's there. It was a multitude of things, you know, things that happen in life, you know. But love overcomes all,
Yes.
you know, and real love overcomes
Yes.
all. And Diana, I must say, was the key to so much that happened at Motown because she was my inspiration.
Yep.
And without her, I don't know that I could have done all the things that I did.
What was the hardest part? I mean, you had all this talent there. What was the hardest thing for you in building what you built?
The hardest single thing, I don't know, there was a lot of...
Little things, but...
A lot of little things. I mean, it's, you know, life is
So it was a
life,
piece of cake
you know.
for you.
Well, you know, it was a passion. You know, when at 8 years old, I saw my family cry, my mother and father cry, and jump for joy when Joe Louis knocked out Max Schmeling for the heavyweight championship of the world. So and I got a passion at that time that I wanted to do something to make that many people happy.
But it is all about the music, though. It brought black people together and white people together that even today, they say when you go into this theater, it's a very different kind of experience with the audience.
Oh, yes, it was
Very.
music for all people. It was music for all people.
And continues to be.
Yeah,
Mary, thank
sure.
you. Great to have you here.
Motown the Musical began previews at the Lunt-Fontanne Theater on March 11th, 2013, and began regular performances there on April 14th. The musical closed in January of 2015. Berry then received the Songwriters Hall of Fame's Pioneer Award on June 13, 2013. He was the first living individual to receive this honor. The UK version of Motown the Musical opened in London's West End in January of 2016. Berry Gordy was present at the opening night. Now, in 2016, Berry received the National Medal of Arts from President Obama for helping to create a trailblazing new sound in American music. Now, Obama was quoted as saying, "As a record producer and songwriter, he helped build Motown, launching the music careers of countless legendary artists. His unique sound helped shape our nation's story." Now, in 2021, Berry was awarded the Kennedy Center Honors alongside Bette Midler, Joni Mitchell, Justino Diaz, and Lorne Michaels. In 2022, he was inducted into the Black Music and Entertainment Walk of Fame. In 2022, again, he was also awarded with an honorary doctorate from the University of Michigan. Berry Gordy was married and divorced 3 times. He has 8 children with 6 different women. His publishing company, Joe Battay, was actually named after his 3 eldest children, Joy, Berry, and Terry. Now, he had 3 children with his first wife, who's Thelma Coleman. He married her in 1953. Those 3 children were Hazel Joy Gordy, Berry Gordy IV, Terry James Gordy. Now, in the spring of 1960, he married Raynoma Mayberry Lyles. They were divorced in 1964, but they had 1 son whose name is Carrie Gordy. Now, Berry then had 1 daughter with a woman named Gianna Jackson, and her name is Sherry Gordy. He then had a son with his then mistress, Margaret Norton, and his name is Kennedy William Gordy. Kennedy is also Motown artist Rockwell. Now, Berry Gordy had a daughter with Motown artist Diana Ross, with whom he had an intimate relationship from 1965 through 1970. Now, their daughter's name is Rhonda Suzanne, but her legal father is actually Diana Ross's ex-husband, Robert Ellis Silberstein. Now, Berry Gordy's 8th and youngest child is a son born to Nancy Leveska, and his name is Stefan Kendall Gordy. Now, Stefan is also known by his stage name of Red Foo. Now, Berry married Grace Eaton on July 17th of 1990. They divorced in 1993. There is no denying that Berry Gordy has had a very successful career. Now, we've told his story, the Wikipedia version, the safe version. Now, let's get to the tea, what we all came here for. Marvin Gaye's marriage to Berry Gordy's sister, Anna Gordy. Now, Marvin Gaye was a heavy hitter of Motown during its heyday. He was a musical genius with a voice like velvet who gave a generation of lovers the sounds they needed to express their feelings. Listeners instantly fell for his sweet tones, his creativity, but his relationships with people close to him were intensely strained for most of his life. Now, Marvin Gaye's first wife was Berry Gordy's sister, Anna. Marvin and Anna's love affair started sweetly enough, but eventually it became poisonous for both parties. Their love story began in 1959 when Marvin was a staff drummer for Anna Records. Anna was co-founder of the label, and she and Marvin quickly developed a serious relationship. They were married in 1963 after dating for 3 years. Now, Marvin wrote several songs inspired by their relationship, most notably Pride and Joy, one of his first big hits. Years later, their eventual breakdown in trust also led to I Heard It Through the Grapevine and the album Here, My Dear. But those are less romantic stories. But their relationship is more notable for another reason. You see, Anna was 17 years older than Marvin, and by the time they got married, she was in her 40s and unable to have children. Now, eager to start a family, the duo found a solution to their dilemma, but this solution was not as traditional as some would like. Now, both Marvin and Anna have claimed that their son, born in November of 1965, was their biological child, but allegedly this was not the case, and Marvin III's real mother is Denise Gordy, Anna's then 15-year-old niece. The couple subsequently adopted Marvin as theirs, but Denise is quoted as saying, "My aunt was unable to have children and I had one for her. It was as simple as that." Now, it was never confirmed that Marvin was the father, but it was never denied either. It is said that those around Marvin and Anna that were involved in the decision agreed with the plan. Anna faked a pregnancy to keep up appearances, but if then 26-year-old Marvin Gaye fathered this child with Anna's niece, that means he committed a crime. The arrangement was kept under wraps for PR and legal reasons, and Marvin eventually admitted that he adopted the child, but he refused to go into further details about the situation. Now, Denise Gordy is niece of Anna Gordy and Berry Gordy. She is daughter of their brother George. Now, Denise saying that she agreed to have the baby for Anna and Marvin, stating that she agreed to carry the baby, but no one is stating how she conceived. Was it through IVF, artificial insemination, or did they do it the old-fashioned way? So let me know what you guys think about this allegation. Do you think that this is true? It is certainly possible. I mean, Marvin Gaye did have many demons that he was dealing with. His pain, suffering, and drug addiction. Could this be a secret that pained him? And sadly, it's one that he took to his grave. So you guys drop down in the comments and let me know what you think. Almost said no to the Jackson 5. Hated Stevie Wonder's voice. His mother was a nag.
The first time you saw the Jackson family, when Michael Jackson came in, what were your first impressions when you saw them perform in front of you?
Well, I was floored. When I saw them perform, I was really floored. But I did not want a kids group because I had Stevie Wonder and, you know, chaperone teachers, and his mother was really tough. So I did not want a kids group at all.
Oh, Stevie Wonder's mum was tough?
See, Lula, yeah, she was really tough. I mean, she wanted everything, and I didn't even like his singing. I mean, what I liked was his harmonica playing, because he was so great as a harmonica player, and his singing voice I did not like.
Woo child, I want to know what you're thinking. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Diana Ross, her affair with Berry Gordy, their love child, and the Supremes. Miss Diana Ross, the diva. Now, there are many that speculate that Diana Ross and Berry Gordy, their love affair and their relationship was depicted in the movie Dreamgirls. That Berry Gordy was so obsessed with Diana Ross that he pushed her out in the forefront of the Supremes, leaving the other two vocalists behind. He made Diana a superstar, and the other two just played the background. But some speculate that this was all because Diana Ross and Berry Gordy were having a love affair, and the love affair was evident. There was a child born, Rhonda, to the two of them during this affair. And because of this, this is what gave Diana preferential treatment.
But they were trying so hard, they had to lose.
Lead singer was a kid named Diana.
Diana Ross, yeah.
Describe your relationship with Diana Ross. What was she to you?
Something like everything. Yeah, something like everything. I mean, Diana was, she was my baby.
Diana Ross became almost an obsession with Gordy. He even wrote a song for her in 1964 called Try It, Baby.
Now you're moving on up, pretty baby, leaving me behind. Everybody seems to love you, you're doing just fine, fine, fine.
Not only did he manage her singing career, she also starred in 2 movies he produced, Mahogany and The Lady Sings the Blues. The manager and the star fell deeply in love.
And he'll be big and strong.
You were in love with Diana Ross.
That's right.
Not
I
just
loved
love.
all my artists, but I was in love with Diana Ross.
Okay. Why didn't you marry Diana Ross? You loved her. She loved you.
Yeah.
Why didn't you get married?
Diana and I are the same kind of people. She wanted what I wanted. And we saw it up there. And we set out to get it. And we knew and we vowed that we would never let our personal relationship affect it like so many other personal relationships have affected performers and husbands managing them and this and that and so forth. But I'm working with her, and this is you know, she's magic and she's mine, you know, and she's Diana Ross. And I loved her, but I wasn't selfish enough to want to marry her and take her out of what I knew she had to have. She had to have that stardom up there.
Not that Gordy was against marriage. He actually married 3 times and fathered 8 children. 4 were born out of wedlock, including 1 with Diana Ross. Mr. Gordy, you had a baby with Diana Ross, a little girl named Rhonda, who's now grown.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't tell Rhonda that she was your child until she was 13. Why?
We felt that it would be better for her sake that she did not know until that time.
Did you know at the time that Diana Ross was pregnant with your baby?
No, I didn't. We had broken up, and after that we were together one night. She then married another man. And when she had the child, we had no idea that it was mine. And then as the child was growing up, you know, I'm looking and, you know, I'm saying, wait a minute, you know.
She looks like me.
Yeah, and so then Diana and I discussed it, and we realized that it was indeed my child. I was very close to the family, and Rhonda has called me Uncle BB all her life. We've had just a wonderful relationship since she's found out, and I love her very much.
Diana Ross finally left you in Motown.
And then there is the long-standing feud between Supreme's backup singer Mary Wilson and Diana Ross.
So many people saying, this book, girl, we can't wait till you dish. You know, I know you hate Diana Ross, and I know this, and I know this. And I said, you know, this book is about Cinderellas. And we lived a real Cinderella story. And the book hopefully will be uplifting when people read it. I hope they will come away being happy, because it's supposed to be happy. I wrote it out of happiness. Unfortunately, I had to talk about a few situations that were not happy. But overall, I think in anyone's life, you have your ups and you have your downs.
I interviewed Diana Ross some time ago, and she talked about that time when she was thrust forward and the rest of the girls in the group were pushed back, almost as background singers. How did that make you feel?
Well, that was definitely the biggest problem within the group. But to be real honest about it, from the very beginning that existed, from the moment that it was decided by Berry that Diane would take over all leads and that Florence and I would no longer sing lead, that problem was there. But, you know, we sort of agreed because we wanted to have a hit record. We wanted to be stars. So whatever made us become stars, we agreed to. So we agreed to, okay, well, if you choose any one of us could sing, you know, but it was Diane, and we were happy for that. I mean, there was no reason for us to be unhappy about that, because she was one of us, and she was great. We loved her. We loved her voice. It just became very bad after a while when we realized, well, we're not ever going to be able to sing.
What is your relationship today with Diana Ross? Is there a friendship?
I feel that Diane and I both right now are searching for our individuality, because I feel she wants to find out who Diane really is, and I want to find out who Mary really is. And in order to do that, you have to really sort of got to forget the past and go on and search for yourself. I feel that's where we are. Only until we feel comfortable being who we are today, I think at that time we can come back and be friends. But right now, there is really no relationship.
I've heard some things that, quite frankly, I think will shatter a lot of people's image.
Who?
Of me, I'll admit it, of Diana Ross.
Oh, you
Throughout
think so?
this book, let's call it, she did not come off as a very nice person. I mean, she was egotistical, she was power hungry, she was constantly causing trouble within the group. She was not exactly a source of great delight for you many times throughout the years of the Supremes.
Shall I wait till you're through? You know, it's amazing how people sort of want me to really dislike Diane or to feel bitter about the way she is, the way she was. I shared that story with everyone because I love her, and I love her in spite of herself, because of herself. I think it's possible to know people, and perhaps you guys have someone in your family that you love, but I mean, boy, you just cannot stand to talk to them on it. You know, it's like, wow, why do they have to act like that? But there still is a love there. And in my book, I show how, yes, Diane was very aggressive. She was the kind of girl that in the Brewster projects, we'd all be playing around and she'd race with the boys, and she would beat them. I mean, she would beat them, and I'd just stand back and I'd admire that. I think in our own way, when people become famous, you do admire them, but then when you get a chance to look at them as real people, you say, well, shoot, you know, I don't know if I don't know if I like her, but you do like what they have achieved. And I think because of her way, because of her aggressiveness, that's why she made herself into this huge star.
The Motown family. For the Motown family, for they will always, always be in my heart. So when you honor me, you really honor the Motown legacy. And to all the Supremes, especially Mary Wilson, I want to really, really send my love out to her.
I was curious, do you have any contact with Diana Ross at all right now? And did she have any comments on your book?
On the book. To be very, very honest with you, right now, there is not a relationship between Diane and I. There has not been one between the two of us for a long time. And I think that had a lot to do with sort of the things that happened back in 1967 when Florence left and Diane was moving out front to become a star. We really kind of lost our relationship there. I don't think that we lost the love that we feel for each other. I do know that very soon I would like to call her up and say, hey girl, you know, what's going on? Let's talk. Can we talk, you know? And I'm sure that after the two of us get together and decide that we want to really make this relationship work again, it will happen, because I believe once you love someone, you never stop loving them. You might start disliking them. But I think the love is sort of always there.
When you first realized about 1965 or so that everything was being geared toward Diane, what was the feeling between you and Florence? Did you feel like leaving then, maybe?
Well, I didn't really realize that everything was being geared towards Diane that early. I realized that, yes, she was becoming out front and that she was a vocal point. What it did to Florence and myself, I would say, is we sort of felt like we were being suffocated. Our talents weren't really being used. But because we were getting so many other goodies, we sort of fed on all those emotions, and I think it really wasn't a very healthy thing to do. But by 1967, that really kind of destroyed myself and Florence as well.
By 1967,
Yes.
how did all that come about? Was it a relationship, a personal relationship between Berry Gordy and she that started this?
Oh, no. No, I think that personal relationship was secondary to the career and eventually where Diane and Berry went in their lives. I think basically it was because Diane is a very talented woman, and he just saw that talent was something to be used towards getting to the goals that they eventually made it to.
Diana Ross, a nice person?
I think she's a nice person. I think that her idea of ambition and becoming a star might be a little different than what a lot of us think it should be. But I think she is a nice person, yes. I mean, I couldn't love her if she was not a nice person.
How much did, maybe it was kind of a two-sided deal here, that you were so successful that Berry was involved in you, but also there was a lot of discontent that came out of that because Berry was also involved with Diana.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of were on the top of a fence there for a little bit.
Well, you know, one day Diane came to the room and she says, I'm going to get him. And so I'm looking around trying to figure out...
He was married at the time, wasn't he?
Was he? Anyway,
Yes, he was married at the time.
I didn't write about that in my book. So when she said she was going to get him, I looked around to see who she was talking about, because, you know, Marvin Gaye is there, you know, and all these handsome guys. I'm thinking, well, maybe it's one of them guys, which is fine with me. But when she said Berry, it's like, why would she want him? You know, this is an older man. And I'm saying, I was very naive. I didn't know he was a boss, and that was the thing to do. But eventually she started dating him, and I had to give it to her, you know, because that was pretty good for a young girl to say, I'm going to get him, and she got him. And actually it helped us tremendously. We were very happy she was dating Berry, because now we got what we wanted. You know, if you're there with Martha and the Vandellas and Marvelettes and all these other groups, and it depends on who is in Berry's favor, whoever gets the record released, and you say that one girl is dating him, we got our records released. And so in the beginning, it was to our favor.
From the beginning of the show, you stated that you love Diana, and I wanted to know, how do you think, you know, as far as the book is going, how do you think Diana going to perceive this book, what's going to come out of it?
I would want her to really know that I love her very much, and that the same way that when she wanted to go out on her solo career, and it took about 2 or 3 years while she was still with the Supremes, I was there and I was supporting her, and I didn't really try to stop her from doing that on the Supremes' time. As a friend, I recognized, after I was hurt a little bit and sad that we had to break up, I recognized that she had to do what she had to do for herself. I was there for her. I would hope that in her reading my book, that she will feel the same way, that this is something that I've written about us. I did not make it up. This is the story of what we were doing at the time. I just wrote down everything that happened. And I hope that she will understand that I, too, you know, must continue my life. And I was a Supreme, and I have every right to write the story. And I tried my best not to write it in a bitter manner, so that it could just be the story that happened. You know, if she's embarrassed about her life, then maybe that's, you know, that's her situation. But I love her regardless of things that are in the book.
Last night on 2020 Downtown, Mary Wilson, one of the original Supremes, accused Diana Ross of stealing the spotlight from the rest of the group. She also expressed other very bitter complaints about Diana Ross. 2020 had contacted Miss Ross's representative to ask her to appear in last night's story and would turn down. However, Diana Ross called me personally and said she hadn't known that the request had been made. She asked to be heard as well. Earlier today, we talked with Diana Ross to hear her side. First, some background. In the 1960s, the Supremes had more hit records than anyone in the world except the Beatles. Diana Ross rose to stardom in the female trio, then left the group in 1970 to launch a very successful solo career. Since that time, she has had hit songs, successful movies, sold-out concerts, and 5 children, 3 grown daughters, and 2 young sons.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Diana Ross.
Still glamorous and popular, she is celebrated in a current televised concert, VH1 Divas 2000, billed as a tribute to Diana Ross. Now, for the first time in 30 years, Ms. Ross will again share the stage as a Supreme in a much-publicized summer tour. But it won't exactly be the Supremes.
Happiness here.
The 2 surviving Supremes, whom Diana Ross performed with, will not be part of the tour. Replacing them are 2 women who joined the group after Ross left. In her interview with ABC's Jay Shadler last night, Mary Wilson complained that Ross would not even meet with her about reuniting the Supremes.
Diana and I should have been there together, said, I'm ready to do this, you're ready to do it, let's do it.
Why didn't it happen that way?
She did not want to talk first. She wanted to do the business first.
The numbers that have been bandied about the reunion are these: $12 to $15 million for Diana.
How about 15 to 20 million?
15 to 20 million.
Mm-hmm.
Of which you were supposed to get what?
2 million, and then maybe 3.
That's not enough?
It's not enough? What do you mean enough? I don't think enough is a word. I think fair would be more of the better word. Or deserving.
Mary Wilson has gone her own way, still performing the music of the Supremes as part of a Motown Oldies tour. But she carries with her the bitterness of her professional life, she says forever changed. Diana, all this must be very painful for you.
Actually makes me quite sad, because I do think that we need to answer some of these things that are really not correct.
Well, let's go through some of the accusations that have been made that Mary Wilson has said.
Yes.
How do you feel about her accusation that she was offered an insulting amount of money to join you in the tour? She said $2 to $3 million.
You know, I really didn't want to get into the numbers of the tour. I did not negotiate with her. Actually,
you did not do the negotiating?
No, I did not. I was planning to do my own promotional tour across Europe to promote the new album. And Scott Sanders, who is a wonderful friend of mine, said, wouldn't it be nice to add a Supreme segment to the show? Of which I said, that sounds good. That's a good idea. Let's do more of the music. And I called her on the phone. I said, look, have you heard the gossip? The fans really want a reunion tour. Are you interested in this? From the beginning of the conversation, the first thing she said was, what took you so long to call? And I'm saying it sort of nicer than she did. I said, look, I thought maybe you would be happy about this. I talked to the promoters. The promoters came back saying, yes, they'd love to do it. They made me an offer, they made Cindy an offer, and Mary an offer. Was never enough. Barbara, I think
Cindy
if we...
Birdsong was the other member of the original Supremes.
Now, I think if we had offered her the moon, she would not have been happy. I doubled their offer. so that she could come and do this tour. She didn't have to pay for anything, not a hotel room, not a car, not a gown, not a music arrangement, not a set, nothing. All she needed to do was show up.
Diana, Mary Wilson said that she feels that she deserved more because, I'm quoting, because of her significance as a founding member of the group.
You know what? She was making, I heard her say, $1 million a year. They offered her for 30 shows, double that, and I doubled that.
While we are on the subject of money, since Mary Wilson brought it up, she said that you are making $15 to $20 million for this tour.
I wish.
You wish.
I wish.
Can we ask you how much you are getting paid?
No, I can't, because...
But not that.
Most of my money is in percentages. If we do well, I do well. So it's not like that.
I want to show you just a little something from last night's interview and then ask you about it.
Okay.
A little clip.
There is a certain thing about Diane that has always been the way she is, period, since I knew her at the age of 13. And that would be, she wants everything herself.
Have you known all of these years, she talks about since you were 13, that Mary Wilson had this kind of resentment?
No, I think the unhappiness came when things started not to work that well in her life. She's had a lot of difficulties. I think she's coming from a lot of pain, and a lot of times when you're unhappy, you have to find some place to throw that to. You know, she's targeting me, and I see such unhappiness in her, coming out of her. You know, I don't know that I can change that. I don't know that I could really change how she feels inside. All my love. I can't, do any more. I don't know what I can do. I can sit down and talk to her, but do you think it's going to change her feelings?
Well, if it did change.
If she's been harboring this, for 30 years or more, I don't know that I could.
Is there anything that you could say tonight, or would want to say tonight, that might make it possible for you to work with her?
I basically, in my heart, know that it would be very hard for me to work with her on stage. I think at a certain point I need to let go, because I did try. I even called at Christmas time saying, I got the promoters, they're excited, let's do it. There was no return call.
When people say this is Diana Ross and the Supremes, it really isn't the Supremes, what do you say?
Well, I think she's been working as Mary Wilson in the Supremes, and she's been singing my songs. And it's not her voice. I mean, I had a solo career for 30 years. I've been singing Supreme songs.
I want to go back to something else that was said by Mary Wilson. She said you were all equal until you began a love affair with Berry Gordy. Oh. And she said that's the reason that you were made the star, and that you were pushed out in the front.
I'm not going to I think the audience knows that that's my voice on all those songs, and it had nothing to do with my relationship with Berry. I think he's he gave me an opportunity to shine. Berry believed in me. Berry sponsored me doing Lady Sings the Blues. He probably believed in me more than I believed in myself. And I just think he's a very special man.
Was he the one who thought you should do a solo act?
The name was changed to Diana Ross and the Supremes, the same as was changed with Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. It was all done in a purpose to bill us in a bigger manner, not just a group. The rest of the groups did not become victims. As I said, Mary's been able to create her life by, like she's a victim, like someone's doing things to her. Mary also forgets that I contributed to her life when she was having difficulty. I think she's forgotten all about that. I wish that she would have taken the offer. I couldn't get involved in that. I actually stayed away from it on purpose because I didn't think that I should have been involved. But then when it didn't work, I offered more, and it still wasn't enough.
I want to talk about this concert.
I'd rather give my money to the charities.
Your recent television special was called The Divas. Now, it used to be that to be called a diva, Diane, was not a compliment. I mean, divas were considered monsters.
No, not really. Wasn't it prima donnas that were the difficult ones?
Does diva describe you? Do you like being called a diva?
Yes, I do, actually, right now. I like the idea that women are able today to take responsibility for their lives and have the strength of character to say, I did this, I want credit for it, or I did this and I need, I'm sorry, or I need to be free. But I think it has to do with giving, it has to do with growth, it has to do with wisdom. It takes a long time to get to be a diva. I mean, you got to work at it.
I have to ask you.
Yes?
Is that your real hair?
I know when, you know, in the early days you wore all different wigs.
You know, it's so much simpler if you can find a way that your hair looks natural. Should I ask you if it's yours, Barbara?
It is, as a matter of fact. It doesn't look as if, you know, I think I got to do a little bit to it.
Yeah.
So this is a little addition here.
This is me, and this addition is like, you know, added on, you know, you see?
We've been talking about some difficult things, but Oprah Winfrey has said that when she saw you as the Supreme, it changed her life. She realized that a young black woman could make it. Star Jones has said this to me. That must give you a very good feeling that you have been able to inspire so many.
It's so important because that's really what I've always wanted to stand for, is good image. And it's about the image, what we did during a time when it was really difficult for white America to accept black music. They called it race music. We were able to bridge a gap there. And it was such an amazing time that right now it's really a good idea that we can reclaim our legacy. I'm proud of what we stood for, very proud of what we stood for.
And what about those accusations that Diana Ross was a diva? Well, was she a diva true and through, or did she copy off of the original diva herself, Patti LaBelle? Patti LaBelle says that Diana Ross was stealing costume ideas from her.
I just like the fact that you are so real, not only with your fans, but just as a person. You're just so real. I mean, remember, Diana Ross was here one night, and we were talking about the whole eyelash thing.
Oh, Diana. She
Yeah.
did that to you, too, didn't she? I don't do that. But wait a minute. What girlfriend said that I eat those lashes? I'm scared of her. Well, let me tell you, and she's a nice lady.
Yeah.
I think she really likes me. I don't think she meant any harm.
No, she just knows how open you are and how, you
But
know.
I wouldn't eat the lash, darling. Girlfriend, I eat potato salad and chicken. I don't eat lashes. I don't do that. And let me clean up something else. Let me clean up something else. I was on Oprah 2 weeks ago with Gladys Knight and Dionne Warwick, my two friends in the name of love.
Yeah.
And I said something about prostitutes, about Lady Marmalade, the song that we played on the break. That your band, they're kicking, baby. All right, children, keep on playing. Anyway, I said on Oprah's show that I exploited hookers. I didn't mean exploit. I said the wrong word. Just for those who were watching that day, I was nervous and I was saying the wrong words. I didn't mean exploit. I meant something else. But anyway, I'm cleaning it up. I cleaned it up. Thank you, Lord. And Diana, I don't eat lashes.
She was just joking.
I know.
She was just joking.
I eat food.
But am I lying? Didn't you take your
I
eyelash
take
off
those
again?
things off and give them to the audience, because if they come down on my face and sit here, it looks like a big old black mole or something. So you take it off and you give it to the audience. That way they can have a part of Patty. And they're like the boy with the stocking, the eyelash. What else do I give out? Nothing else.
Diana Ross. Oh, that little heifer would come in there and see what we were wearing, and they would go out and find the same outfit. I think we got them from Woolworths. I don't know where we got these stretch gold lame suits. But before we went out, for some reason, we were going on after the Supremes, which didn't make sense to me because they were the big stars. But we went on after them, and of course, we only had that one gold outfit, and they had worn theirs already, so it looked like we were copying off of them. I wanted to pimp slap her, you know, because it was like, why would you go out in something that you know we're going to wear, and that's the only outfit we have? I wanted to beat her up.
I love your take on other ladies of music, and I love the world that you live in. So I want to play a game with you just called Diva Word Association. And I'm going to give you a diva, and you just say the first thing that pops in your mind. It can be anything. It can be all positive. It doesn't have to... You're looking at me like, oh, no, but, like, you just say whatever you want. Like, this
I
is
will.
not... Okay.
I will.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, you ready to play?
Yes.
Okay. Because I mean...
I'm
yeah.
ready.
Okay. Diana Ross.
She's the top. I mean, no. She's a legend in her own time, not in her own mind.
Right.
She started it. I mean, her and the girl group.
There's a great story in your book, Don't
But we
Block the
did our
Blessing.
thing together.
No, I mean when, and it's just a cute story, when the
was true.
the Bluebells were on the bill with the Supremes, Diana kept checking out your dresses and then copying them, and then you would go on after the Supremes.
And it looked like we
people
were
would-
copycats.
Right. And you
Yes.
gave it to Diana at one point. You
I
sat
had
her
to,
down.
I had to beat her up a little bit.
Right.
But we ended up being the best buddies. It's like, we were going through young girl stuff then, like, you know, back in the day, but now we're grown women, and we know that she did what she had to do at that time.
Smokey Robinson on that time when Berry told him to get that bloop out of here.
Berry said, hey man, he said, you know, I trust you more than anybody. I'm gonna change your office. You're gonna do the financial stuff. You're gonna sign all the payroll checks. The checks are gonna come into your office with everything, with the exception of the record sales. The checks are gonna come into your office. You're gonna take out the checks and blah, blah. So man, I was excited about that. Oh, this is great. You know, it's a new day. I'm being an executive. You know, it's a new thing. Because being an executive in Detroit was fun because I did what I loved, new talent. So the first year or so, man, that was great. I'm signing checks. And my name is William. My name is William Robinson, Jr. That's how I'm signing the checks. William Robinson, Jr. William Robinson, Jr. So, man, you got to see my signature now. My signature is like that because after 1,000 checks, man, you know, I said, I got to change this because this is killing me, man.
Yeah.
I got to get a new signature. So I went home at night and I practiced my signature, what it is now, until I got it. And then I went to the bank and I changed everything. And my signature is because, I mean, I had to because of signing those checks. Anyway, after about 2.5 years of that, I was miserable, man. I was absolutely miserable. But I thought I was doing a great job of hiding it. I thought nobody knew that I was miserable. Nobody could tell that because I was, I was miserable. And I started going to little clubs after I got off work in Los Angeles just to see anybody on stage. I don't care who it was. I just wanted to see somebody on stage. And I was miserable. And after about three years or so, three years, a few months, you know. Can I curse on this?
Yeah, for
okay,
sure.
Okay, because I'm going to. Okay, anyway. So Berry comes to my office, and he said, hey man, he said, I need you to do something for me. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, this is something corporate. He wants me to go to Chicago or New York. I did stuff like that too. I traveled, made publishing deals, blah, blah, something, and he wants me to do something like that. So I said, yeah, man, of course, I'll do it, you know. He said, sit down. So I sat down. He said, man, I really need you to do something for me. I said, what do you need me to do, man? He said, I need you to get yourself a band, man. I need you to go into the studio and make a record. I need you to get the fuck out of here.
It's completely out of the blue.
What did you say, man? He said, I need you to get yourself a band. I need you to go in the studio and make a record. I need you to get the fuck out of here. So I said, what are you talking about, man? He said, man, you are miserable. And you're my best friend. And when I see you miserable, it makes me miserable. And I don't want to be miserable. So I need you to get the fuck out of my face and just go somewhere. So, man, that was one of the most glorious moments of my life. Because above all, I didn't want to let him down. I didn't want him to think that I couldn't do the vice president thing. I didn't want him to sign the checks. And I didn't want him to think I couldn't do that. And I didn't want to let him down. And when I knew that it was cool with him for me to, you know, go back, man, I was so happy. I can't even tell you. I went home.
Berry Gordy addressing the rumors in his own words.
It had a profound influence on music, popular music. Think about the Jackson 5, think about Michael Jackson, think about Smokey Robinson, think about Diana Ross and the Supremes, think about the Temptations, and you think about the man who created it all. His name is Berry Gordy. He has now written his autobiography called To Be Loved, The Music, the Magic, the Memories of Motown. Welcome. Great to have you here.
It's wonderful.
It's my pleasure. Why'd you do this? Why did you now take time off from a busy career, having soul Motown, a part of it? You got plenty of money. You don't need to make any money. You don't need to, you got a lot of things to do, but you took time off, some 4 or 5 years, to write a book.
Yeah, so many times I've wished that my heroes, who I've admired through the years, had taken time to write their own story about what they did. Because when I read about them, I'm reading what somebody else said they did. But when you write your own book, you not only write about what you did, but you write about how you did it. And more importantly, why you did it, and how you felt doing it. So it's a big difference to me. I wrote it for that reason, but many others. Another reason was to kind of set the record straight for all the young people that admired me out there, or that look at what we've done with Motown and say, hey, I want to do that too, but they don't know how it was done. You know, they think maybe it was done by devious means or something, and I want them to know that this was done with love, with care, with seeing the potential in people. Because my feeling has always been that less than 1% of all the people in the world ever reach their full potential. And raw talent alone is not enough, but it has to be developed. It has to be nurtured. And that's what we did at Motown. I mean...
You took raw talent and in one end, and at the other end, that was a star.
That was my goal. The assembly line approach, they would go in one door, a kid off the street, and out another door, a star. That was what I had hoped to do, and that's sort of what we did.
You believed at one time you could make a star.
Yes, of course.
Give you a modicum of talent, and you could make a star. You could take a modicum of talent.
Well, I'm not sure I know what modicum
Well,
means.
a small amount. I mean, not, you know what I mean. You know, a small
Okay.
amount. I mean, not a. You did have to be Michael Jackson for you to be able to make a star.
That's
I mean, you understood. You had the assembly line.
Mm-hmm.
You had the songwriters. You had the marketing. You had the whole package there at Motown.
That's right. And as important, we had a group of people that I call the unsung heroes, who had been pushing me for years to write a book. Whenever misinformation was out or something, they would want me to defend it or to write about it or to say, Motown is a company of love, and they would want me to do it. Those people, names you've never heard of and probably will never hear of again, but they were the unsung heroes.
What charges offended you the most? What accusations about Berry Gordy? Rumors.
Well, the only thing that really hurt me, I mean, there were many things. If any misinformation offends anybody, you know, when somebody tells a lie about you or misinformation, it offends you. But the thing that really bothered me the most was cheating of the artist.
They didn't get their earnings.
Yeah, that was the thing that bothered me the most, because the irony of that was that I went into business because as a creative person, I didn't feel I was getting paid. And I felt that the companies that were, in those days, very small, it was a pioneering business, and I felt that was unfair, but more importantly, or just as importantly, it was bad business. You know, it was bad business. So if I started a company and I paid everybody, they would stampede at my door. That was very just logical. And so I started a company, a music company called Jobet Music.
Right, to publish it, wrote the music.
That published the songs for writers like me. And that company paid everybody. And that company has now been in business 35 years, the biggest independent publishing company in the business.
And when you sold Motown, you kept that, right?
I kept that.
Yeah.
So,
because for economic reasons or other reasons?
Well, I don't know exactly what the reason was. It's just that I'm a songwriter and I love those songs. That's what I am.
When Michael Jackson bought the rights to all the Beatles songs, did you advise him on that? Do you have anything to do with that?
No.
What a smart move it was, wasn't it?
It was a smart move.
I mean, he's made $1 zillion just from that, hasn't he?
I don't know, but it was a wonderful catalog, and he was smart to do it.
Yeah. So part of this, though, was a count of whatever negative criticism. You can set the record straight. This is my perspective. This is the way I did it. You know, I want people to know, I want kids to know they, too, can be Berry Gordy.
Right.
And you can do it by dint of creativity, hard work.
And you can do it with values. See, the point is that I grew up in a family with values. You know, my father, had values. My family had values, and those values stayed with me.
Why just sell it? I mean, you know,
well,
a lot of people thought, gee, you know, not this one. Don't sell Motown.
Well, when you understand that the world has changed tremendously, and there are about 6 companies now that control the distribution of about 90% of the music.
Right.
And these corporate giants really control the business. So as an independent, you would not be very smart to stay in and try to fight this uphill battle, this constant uphill battle. And in my case, because of the rumors, misinformation and all that, even some of the artists believed it. And so I had to say, wait a minute, I'm in a different time, in a different place. Everybody's buying everybody. So I want to preserve the legacy of Motown. And then I'll be in a position to write a book, and then, because I am a focuser. I like to focus on whatever I'm doing at the time. If I had focused on misinformation and rumors, there would not be a Motown out there now that's still growing. Yeah. There would not be Jobit Music that's still growing.
I'm going to talk quickly about the artist, but they're so crucial to this story. Michael Jackson, how big a talent?
The biggest.
Talent, not stardom, talent.
The biggest. He's the biggest talent because Michael, I always called him Lil Spongy. He was a sponge. He listened to everybody and everything. And he not only listened to me, from the first day I auditioned Michael to studying James Brown, Jackie Wilson, Fred Astaire, Marcel Marceau, and putting them all together.
He studied
and Michael. Oh, yes. He studies not only them, others. He studied Walt Disney. Michael worked hard. He was probably the hardest working artist I know because he would only eat things that were good for his health. At one time, he was, only drink watermelon juice or something. Going on a diet, on a fast. Michael was serious, and he wanted to be a superstar, and he worked at it. And he became what he worked at.
Everybody that I know who's become a superstar in business, they worked at it. There's this amazing correlation between drive and desire and hard work and energy and perspiration and success. I can't figure it out. It just seems to be right there. Right. He seems like a man-child, though. Is he?
Well, I don't know what you mean by man-child.
Well, he's 35 years old, but part of him is like a little boy.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. When the Jackson 5 left Motown, I didn't keep up with the activities of what the artist did. I was too busy with moving into my focus, which was developing the company, the legacy of the Motown, and stuff like that. But Michael has always been a fantasist. He's been a dreamer. And I knew him as a kid, dreaming of this great everything. So Michael is a kid at heart, but many people are kid at heart. You're a kid at heart.
Oh,
I'm a kid at heart. See, we're kids.
Right.
We like to play, so...
Steven Spielberg is a kid at heart.
Yeah. So I'm certainly that kid. I'm looking for my next project, my next my next that. So I don't know, man-child, I just don't know what's different about him other than he is a fantasist, and he believes, he's always, as a kid, he wanted to do something. So... But I don't really know. I haven't spent that much time with them since they left the company, which was
years ago. Diana Ross.
Diana Ross she's classy. Diana Ross when the lights come on, Diana Ross comes on. I don't care what the rehearsals were. We would rehearse a number, and she would just be fair, rehearsals, so forth and so on. Or doing a movie. Lady Sings the Blues. We rehearse, and I would, say, put it into rehearsal, and she would say, I'm doing it, I'm trying it. But boy, when those lights came on, Diana Ross came to life. She's a money actress. For the money, she can do it, whatever it is.
You loved her.
I loved her, yes, and still do.
But do you still love her the way you did? She's the mother of your child.
That's right, yes.
No. You have 5 wives, 8 children?
I'm sorry?
5 wives, 8 children. 5 women, 8 children. No, 8 children by 5 different women.
Yes.
Not wives.
Yeah.
But was she the love of your life? Diana.
I would say so. And looking back, yes, because she gave me more thrills than anyone
What do you mean by thrills?
Well, thrills on the stage. I mean, you know, when a person can do, her thing was, if you can think it, I can do it. And anything I could think of.
If you can think it, I can do it.
Yes, and when I wanted her to do Lady Sings the Blues, play the life of Billie Holiday, she had never acted before. She had never done anything, but it was a thought I had, and I felt that she could do it. And she believed it. If I thought it, she could do it. And she did. And she was nominated for Academy Award. And the movie was nominated for 5.
Why didn't you two stay together?
Well, when she got married, I asked
Because a lot of
myself,
this book is about relationships.
That's right. The book is about a lot of things.
Right.
You know, it's not just music, singing, and dancing and so forth.
It's about life.
About relationship, you're right, about life. It's about love. It's about winning and losing, and how to win, how to lose. You know, it's about values. But
Diana Ross, why didn't you stay together?
Well, Diana, I asked myself that same question when she got married. I said, well, wait a minute. The reason we did not stay together was because I knew what she wanted, and she wanted stardom in the worst way, and I wanted it for her. We had a goal. We had told each other that we would never let our relationship get involved with her career and my vision and my plan, and we were focused on that. But the relationship started getting in the way. It is very hard to, during the daytime, be this director and this person directing this talent and not letting them get away with anything. And every time I would maybe question her, she may think it's an attack or something, but really I'm trying to, you know, my standards were high. So it's one thing to direct a person and do a lot of things like that during the day, during the day, and then at night, try to be a cuddly bear.
Hard to keep them separate, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you know, and so...
so you come into the bedroom and she say, "You're no cuddly bear," because I remember 5 hours ago.
Yeah, yeah. And even if she didn't say that, even though she appreciated it, see, Diana was very interesting, and even though we would fight over certain things that I might say in terms of directorial remarks toward her or that it wasn't good enough, whenever she did a show, it did not matter who or anybody, what anyone said. It was like, "What do you think, Black?" You know, and if everyone says you're great, you're terrific, you're fantastic, if she wasn't really fantastic, I would have to say, okay, you were very good, but right here you could do better, you know, and that wasn't always a good political thing to say, you know, to a top star that everyone says has done a wonderful job.
Everybody says you're the best, and you're saying you can be better.
Yeah.
Roll tape. Take a look at this.
When I met Berry Gordy, I didn't know that he was going to have this kind of impact on my life, but he was about, at that time, one of the brightest young black men I had ever met. I mean, I saw him he was really someone who had a vision, who did not accept his life the way it was. But
Man
who
founded and built Motown Records.
Yes, and really had a vision. And
Did you fall in love with him early?
No, I didn't. No.
It took you a while, though, to tell your daughter that she was
his child.
His child.
No, not really. It was just the way life, it didn't take that long.
Yeah.
No.
But he was a role model and a strong influence because he was bright, because he'd done something, because...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's really a marketing genius, I think. Yeah. You know, I don't think today people really understand what he did from nothing. It's just like taking a lump of clay and making something into... People think Motown is this big, big company, and when we were making records, it's this tiny little building, you know, just a tiny building on West Grand Boulevard in Detroit, you know, where a big sound came from, the Motown sound.
I don't mean to be gossipy, but I'm interested in him and as well as you. Was he in love with you?
Yeah, I think so.
He was?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
And you didn't...
No, I loved him very much, but not a passionate kind of love, not the kind of love that I've had with my husbands.
Yeah, okay.
I've loved him in a way you look up to someone that you admire, and I have loved him, yes. You know, and thought I was passionately in love with him, but I Now, as I'm older, I look back and I say, no, it's not the same. This is different.
And what is the relationship today?
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good. I wish he were more out there. I wish he would do a talk show and talk about the things that he's done.
I've asked him.
I even asked him to write a book because I think the people should know the facts of the company to really know just how it came about, you know, how he had this dream. And, you know, I think he's going to write a book. I hope he's writing.
I had no idea you were writing this book when she said that. I mean, what'd you think of that?
Well, I thought that was great. I thought that she was incredible. And she looks phenomenal.
And while you were watching it, you said to me, I wish I'd married her.
I said, well, and looking at that, you know, now I wish that maybe I had married her. But I thought that was a wonderful clip. It's incredible. You know, it's really great.
Do you think you two saw it the same way?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You know, it's a funny
I mean,
thing.
sort of, there was she looked up to you, and so it was mixed with love and this whole thing.
Yeah,
she
yeah,
looked up to you. You were the boss. She looked up to you. You were a role model. You were a mentor. You were head of the company. You were her lover, but you were all that mixed up together. And part of that was the problem.
Yeah, that's exactly what the problem was. It was a confusion. It was a confusing kind of situation. But we had this, you know, deep respect, and to me, respect turns into love. It's not the other way around.
Let me talk a little bit about the music business today. Motown made what contribution? What contribution has Motown made to music? It did what?
Well, there's several schools of thought about what Motown did. I'm probably not the best authority.
Well, give me your
there.
analysis.
Well, you know, in 1968, we had 5 records out of the top 10. Before that time, we were looked at as a little black company in Detroit. While we were busy gloating over the 5 out of the top 10, as I say in the book, the corporations around the world were looking at what an impact black music is having on this general market. 5 out of the top 10. So they then started gearing up forces and allocating funds and stuff to create
black artists.
Black
because
artists.
they knew there was a you showed there was a market for black artists.
Yes.
You gave black artists an access to a larger market. Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Interesting too, because I mean, you know what they say about Elvis Presley. The notion is that Presley sounded black.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he was so popular.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Well, you know,
I just know that
he had
did.
sort of came out of rhythm and blues. There was a quality, as kind of a rockabilly quality to it. It sounded a little bit like rhythm and blues.
Well, it was
came
rhythm.
Out of Mississippi.
It was rhythm and blues. The Hound Dog was. It was called rhythm and blues when it was first recorded, I believe, by Big Mama Thornton or somebody.
Right.
And then when he did it as bluesy as she did, but it was called pop.
Right.
So, you know, those are tags that were put on the records, but I didn't. I never believed in the tags. I believed in good music is good music, and that's why we just tried to general market our music all over every place.
Duke Ellington once said, I don't know what people talk about. We talk about the difference in this music and that music. There are only 2 kinds of music, good music and bad music. That's it. Barry Gordy's book is called To Be Loved, The Music, the Magic, the Memories of Motown. It's interesting because the music and those artists still have a huge pull on so many of us who grew up during those years. Thank you very much, Barry. Great to have you here.
And that concludes this video on Motown legend and founder Berry Gordy. Be sure to drop down in the comments section and let me know what your thoughts are about this video. Until next time, be sure to like the video, share the video, but most importantly, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye, guys.